Good morning guys, welcome back to my channel. This is Stan here with you. Well, in today's vlog I'm going to teach you how to replace your front brake pads. So stay tuned. So firstly, these are all the things that you need for this DIY. A pair of jack stands. You need a brake pad and caliper grease like this. Then these are the front brake pads. It's OEM from Hyundai itself. The brake pad part number is 58101 1VA00. So this is the part number. You'll need a piece of cloth. You will then need a 14 mm wrench like this and a 17 mm wrench like this. And finally you'll need a flathead screwdriver. So the first step is to remove the wheels. So let's get to it. So the first step before starting this job is to open the brake fluid reservoirs cap. Why? Because when you push the brake caliper pistons inside, brake fluid tends to come out. So as you can see, the brake fluid is above the max level. So when I push the piston inside, the brake fluid will come out. But don't keep it open for so long because air can mix with brake fluid. So the first important step is to place the flathead screwdriver inside and try to catch hold of the brake pads and push it in such a way that the brake piston is pushed inwards. So what this does is it will free up space for the new brake pads to be placed inside, else it will be very difficult for you to place the new pads. Since the new pads are much thicker in size, it will be more difficult for you to do this later. So this is the most important step. Make sure that you push the brake piston inwards, that is from left to right. So this is how the screwdriver will be placed. You will be putting it in through this side and it will come out like this through the other side, and you will have to pull it towards you. You will have to pull the screwdriver towards you so that it pushes the piston inwards. As you can see right now, the piston is pushed inside and you have enough space to place the new brake pads. So the next step is to remove these caliper slide pin bolts, that is here and here. So for this you have to use the 14 mm wrench, or you can also use a 14 mm socket wrench like this. So once you remove the brake caliper, make sure that you don't let it hang by the brake lines, as that could damage the brake lines. Instead, just place it behind on top of the suspension arm like this, and the brake line is also loose and free. So that's it. So both the brake pads are out. These are the new retaining clips. And this is the new brake pad. Look how shiny and yummy it looks. Just look how thick the OEM brake pads are. So these are my old brake pads which was used for around 10 years and 55,000 kilometers. So this is the first time I'm replacing it on my car. Just check out the difference between the old pad and the new pad. There's absolutely no brake material left on the old pad. Can you see the difference in thickness between the new one and the old one? This is the other set of pad. See the old one and the new one. There's nothing left. There's absolutely nothing left on the old pad. So why I asked you to get the 17 mm wrench is to remove these caliper bracket bolts that are behind here, one here and one here. So these are 17 mm bolts. With that you can remove the caliper bracket, that is this one. So in my case, obviously I don't need to remove that because I just need to replace the front brake pads. So that's not needed. And there are two retaining clips which you need to remove because I got these brand new with the new brake pads itself. So we'll remove the retaining pins. So this is one retaining pin and the second one is on top here. So this is the second retaining pin. If your brake pads are OEM brake pads, genuine OEM brake pads from Hyundai, you will get these retainer pins. But if you use any third-party brake pads, you will not get these retainer pins. In such a scenario, all you have to do is clean these retainer pins and then reuse them. That's all. So the next step is to remove these slide pins. Like so. So this is how the slide pin looks like. Wipe out the old grease and put new grease on the slide pin. So just use this grease which I showed you before. It's actually pretty thick. It's very thick. Seems of good quality. Now let's do the same for the bottom slide pin also. Now if you notice the bottom slide pin, there is another black thingy over here. So just don't mix up these two slide pins. Make sure this slide pin goes to the bottom. Don't mix it up. Okay, now apply the new grease on it. So the next step is to grease these portions of the retainer clip. Why? Because this is where the brake pads actually rest on. See, the edges of the brake pads actually rest on these, so you don't need any squealing noise, or you don't want them to bind together. So that is why you put grease on these two edges and also on the brake pads on these two edges. So first let's grease the retainer clips. So next we'll apply grease on the brake pads on this portion and here also, because this is where the piston gets in contact with the brake pads. So this is where you should apply grease. Also don't forget to apply grease on these portions also, because this is the portion which gets in contact with the retainer clips. On this brake pad it comes actually with an additional shim, so you need to remove this shim, apply grease over here, and then apply grease on top of this shim also. So the next step is to place these retaining clips in place. And now we'll be placing the brake pads. So this brake pad comes in the outer portion. And make sure that you don't apply any grease on this side. you should only apply grease on the back side of the brake pad. Just push the brake pad completely towards your rotor. So I'm actually going to reapply some grease because I got grease on my hands. I was struggling to place the brake pads inside, because you'll need to slide these brake pads in slowly inside the retainer clip, so you'll have to do some flexing. But it's pretty easy, but in the process you'll get some grease on your hands, so just reapply grease on the back sides of the brake pads again. Now the next step is to place the brake caliper back in place. You might have to push in the sliding pins inwards towards you. So just tighten the sliding caliper bolt. So we are done with replacing the driver side's front brake pads. Now it's time to replace the passenger side brake pads as well. So let's do that. Now if you notice the old brake pad, you can see there's a metal clip over here, but I did not receive this in my brand new brake pad. See, there's no metal clip. There's supposed to be a metal clip here and it's not there. I'm not sure if it's a manufacturing problem, but I'm going to fix it this way anyways. Just see the difference in thickness between these two pads. This is my old pad and this is the new pad. There's almost nothing in the old pad. Same in this case as well. This is the old pad and this is the new pad. So I had a very tough time replacing the passenger side's caliper back in place. The reason was because I did not push the caliper piston all the way back in, and the new pads were not allowing the caliper to be back in place. So then with difficulty somehow I pushed the caliper piston back in after a lot of hard drives, and finally the caliper got in place. So always remember the first step: before you remove the old pads out, you'll have to push the caliper piston all the way back in and make sure that you have the brake fluid reservoirs cap open. So an important step before test driving your vehicle is that you need to depress your brake pedal a couple of times. So for this you need to have your engine started and then just press the brake pedal halfway through. Don't press it all the way in, just press halfway through, just pump it halfway. Keep pumping it for a while. So once you drive, you need to go easy on the brakes because the brake pads need to bed in for a few kilometers. It has to bed in with the rotors. Take it easy with the brakes for a few kilometers at least, and then you will have peak performance with your brake pads. So that's it with the DIY, guys. It was very plain and simple. I only had a slight hiccup while placing the passenger side's brake calipers. This was mainly because I did not push the caliper pistons in fully, and that's why I couldn't place the caliper back in place. I also have a lot of other DIYs in my DIY playlist, so please do consider subscribing and watching that playlist. The total cost incurred for this DIY was around 2,040 rupees. It was 1,500 rupees for the brake pads and another 540 rupees for the grease, that is 100 grams. So I will leave links of all the items used in this DIY in the description below, so please be sure to check it out. I hope you guys enjoyed this DIY and found it useful as well. If you did, please do hit the like button and do consider subscribing to my channel. Until next time, this is Stan signing out. Bye bye.